Hello everybody, my name is Cody and I'm here with the Emerald Coast Science Center, and today we are going to be talking about a topic that is really important, especially now with this quarantine, but we're going to be talking about germs. And so before we talk about germs, I have some gloves on, and so I was going to talk about gloves for a second. And if you're wearing gloves, you probably know this already. If you wear gloves like when you go to work or something, you probably know this already. But I'm just going to talk about how to take them off safely. So you see, I have the gloves on my hands. What you want to do is with the first glove, you're just going to pinch it right there at the bottom, and you're going to start to pull it off like that, right? And so you don't want to touch your hand with this glove because you've been touching other stuff with it, right? And so now you have this hand free. You can put this glove down. What you want to do with this one is you want to slide your finger underneath just like this. And then you're going to, oh, I just ripped it, but that's okay. Then you're going to slowly pull it off like that. And so that's the effective way to take off your gloves so that you don't get that bacteria on your hands that was already on those gloves, right? And so since we're going to talk about germs, we need to give a little bit of background information, right? We need to talk about the types of germs. And so here I have 4 types of germs. I have bacteria, I have viruses, I have fungi, and protozoa. And so those are pretty crazy words. You might not have heard of protozoa before. But these are the 4 types of germs, right? And so let's go ahead and talk about that just a little bit. So bacteria is a single-celled organism. And so what a cell is a cell is pretty much the building blocks of life. It's the units of life that build up our bodies, build up all the animals' bodies. And then, so a bacteria is just one single cell, whereas I have millions and millions and millions of cells in my body that work together to create me, right? So these are single celled. These ones, they need nutrients from the environment. They can't grow unless they get nutrients from something else. So they depend on nutrients from others. And so that's how they can grow. They need to be able to get all the nutrients. They'll take nutrients, and so that's why whenever we have bacteria inside our body that's not good, it'll take our nutrients from us, and then it'll begin to produce toxins, right? So whenever they eat all that nutrients, they gotta release it somewhere, right? And so when they release it, it produces waste, which are known as toxins. And toxins are just proteins that are negative, that have negative health effects to us, right? And so they produce toxins. All these will produce toxins, right? And so viruses are a little bit different. They aren't a cell. They're not the building blocks of life. What they actually are is, have you ever heard of DNA? DNA is the coding to what makes us, right? They're the coatings to our cells, which build us up, right? So the DNA codes for my brown eyes, my brown hair, my big nose, right? So the DNA is going to code for that. But what viruses are a single strand of RNA. So RNA is kind of like DNA a little bit. So DNA looks like this. That's kind of a bad drawing. DNA kind of looks like, I'm going to draw that a little bit better. I'm not an artist, but DNA looks like this. RNA looks just like this. And so what the virus is this single strand, and what it does is it gets into our cells. It goes inside of our cells, and then it starts to produce another strand to create a double strand, and then that's going to take over all the functions of that cell. So with HIV is really, really bad because when it goes into the cell, it literally takes control of all the cell's functions, and that cell starts working for that virus. So whenever the virus goes into the cell, it's going to take over that cell, and that cell is now the virus's. It's no longer yours. And so that's why it's bad. It'll produce toxins, and then when it gives us infections, it'll give us stuff like sore throat. It'll make us sneeze a lot because we're trying to release it. And so whenever we sneeze, we release all these germs, and then it gets into the air, and then people can inhale that, and that'll get inside them, right? And so whenever we sneeze, we want to make sure we cover our nose and our mouth with our elbows or our shirt or whatever we can, just so that we can reduce the spread of the virus, right? So these are single-stranded. And they need a host. They cannot reproduce unless they have a host. And a host is just a cell, right? They need to go into that cell in order to reproduce into other cells and take control over the body, right? So they need a host. Now, sometimes they can stay on surfaces and stuff like that. That's why you want to be careful when you're shaking people's hands, touching other stuff, because the virus can last on surfaces for a short amount of time, but it won't be able to reproduce unless it has that host. So it can't make more of itself unless it has a host, right? But it can still stay on your hands, okay? Fungi is a little bit different than bacteria and viruses. Fungi is kind of like, it's kind of plant-like, it's kind of like a plant, but instead of being able to produce its own food like plants can, plants are able to get sunlight, water, and the soil. They're able to use all that nutrients together to make food for itself. These guys need other things to make food. So they decompose a lot of times. They're going to decompose the nutrients so that they can get bigger and stronger. Fungi usually isn't too deadly for humans, but they can cause irritating symptoms. Athlete's foot is something kids get a lot, teens will get a lot, some adults, but it's pretty much you'll get fungal infections in between your toes, and that'll make it itch really bad, and it'll start to burn a little bit. But these are multicellular, so they're not one single cell, but they're a bunch of cells. So these are multicellular. So there's a lot of cells that'll go into that and cause a bunch of reactions. And then protozoa is just a little bit different. They like water. They love water. So they're going to be found in water, and they can spread disease through water. And so that's where, whenever you drink some water and it might not be clean, you might be drinking protozoa that are going to produce toxins in your body. And then that's going to cause bad effects, right? That's going to make it really bad for you. So these love water. So that's why you always want to make sure that you're drinking safe and clean water. You never want to just go drink water out of a river, right? Because that's really dangerous. You don't know what's all in that water. Because they're so tiny, we can't see it with our eyes. So all these are pretty much invisible, right? And so we're not able to see it unless they grow and grow and grow, and then they're going to get big and big. Then we might be able to see like a huge colony of it. When there's a bunch of them, we might be able to see some stuff growing, like on a leaf. You can see some bacteria or some fungi growing on a leaf. And then it's pretty much their own world, right? And so we have all these types of germs, and they are kind of scary, right? It's kind of scary to think about because they can cause so many negative effects. It can make us really sick. But the good thing is we know just what to do to stop them, right? We've dealt with these for a while, so we're able to stop it. And so what we're going to talk about are ways to keep germs from spreading so that we can stay safe, right? Because that's the most important thing, is safety. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to talk about soap and how it works. And so what we can do right here is I have a bowl full of glitter. And I use red and purple glitter because they're pretty colors. But I have all this glitter inside the water, and think of the glitter as germs, right? So all this glitter is germs, and I'm playing in the water. I'm playing in nasty water. Oh, I love it. It's fun time, yeah. I'm playing in all this water. I'm having a fun time. You can see all these germs starting to get on my hands, right? You see all this on my hands? All these germs. And I can't see them. Pretend you can't see them, right? So I can't see all these germs that are on me. And so when I go to wash my hands, I need to make sure I use soap and water, right? And so let me go ahead and show you what that's like. So whenever I'm going to wash my hands, you never just want to use water because it's not going to get rid of the germs. So I'm going to pour some water. there's still some germs around me. It kind of washed off most of them, but there's still some germs around, and so I want to make sure that I use soap. There's no soap in this one. Oh yeah, this wasn't working that well. All right, there we go. So I'm using soap, and we'll talk about how soap works in a second, but I want to show you, you want to wash for at least 20 seconds. Make sure you get all over. You want to get on your palms of your hands. You want to get in between your fingernails so you can scratch your palm of your hand to get in between those fingers. You want to get your thumb too. Get in those fingernails. I'm going to go around my thumb, get on the tops of my hands. And with a watch, you want to make sure you take your watch off whenever you're washing your hands. And sometimes I'll even wash my watch because I know that there's germs on my watch, right? And so I'm going to take off that, and I'm going to keep scrubbing, keep scrubbing, keep scrubbing. And you can see this bacteria is still on there, right? But whenever I wash my hands, hands get clean. And so you want to do that for about 20 seconds. I wasn't really counting. I didn't really count to 20, which I should have. But that's one thing you need to do. But people ask themselves, how does soap work sometimes, right? Well, let's talk about that. So let's go back over here. And I can talk about how soap works. So soap has a really complex structure. It's really, really cool. So the way soap works, I'm going to draw kind of the structure of soap. It's not really going to be exactly what soap looks like, because I'm not going to draw it that well. But I'm going to give you the basis of what it looks like, right? And so the way soap works, soap is a bunch of tiny molecules, right? So this is a hydrophilic head. Right here is the hydrophilic head. Hydro meaning water, and philic meaning attracts. So it's attracted to water. It loves water. And so this part is going to connect to the water, right? Whenever you wash your hands with water, this part is going to connect to that water, while there is a hydrophobic tail. And so this tail is hydrophobic, and it's the tail. And so this is one end, and this is the opposite end, and this tail is attracted to oils, fats, stuff like that, which is on your hands, right? And so whenever you sweat, you're producing oil on your hands, and that's why your hair can get kind of greasy. You're getting oil all in it, stuff like that. And so whenever you have bacteria or germs on your hands, they're inside of that oil. They're connected to that oil. They're cuddled up into that oil, deep down in there. And so what happens when you wash your hands with soap, you're getting the hydrophobic tail to connect to that oil. So all this bacteria is going to start, I'm just going to pretend that's all the bacteria, right? All that bacteria is going to connect to the tail end of the soap. And then whenever you wash your hands, you want to wash it for a little while because you want to make sure you get it all, right? Whenever you wash it with water, so let's say this is the water, it's going to go down the drain, and all those germs are going to catch a ride onto that soap. So this hydrophilic head is going to connect to the water, go down the drain, where the hydrophobic tail is going to connect to the germs and go down the drain with it, because it's all connected, right? Just on opposite ends. And so people think that you kill germs with soap. You don't. You really don't. It just catches a ride on it and it goes away. And so that's how soap works. I want to talk about that. And all this stuff sounds pretty scary, right? You can't see it, so how do you know whenever you have germs on you? Well, you just want to be safe. You want to make sure you're washing your hands a lot of times. The good thing is we do know how to make sure that our hands are clean, right? My hands feel pretty clean. I don't feel any oil on them because I use that soap, right? The soap took away all that oil. But not all germs are bad, right? So we have germs inside of our body. We have bacteria inside of our body that help us digest food. And so all throughout our digestive system, we have different kinds of bacteria. And these bacteria will help break down all those nutrients so that our cells can pick it up better. So let me go ahead, let's pretend these are your intestines. These are your intestines, right? And you got a nice good hot dog. You ate a hot dog. That's my drawing of a hot dog. Okay, so you ate a hot dog, and all these bacteria, all the probiotics, are going to start breaking down that hot dog after you chewed it up, increase the surface area so that the bacteria can better break it down, right? And then once all those nutrients are broken down, the bacteria takes in some of it, but then the cells right here, we have cells that line our walls in our intestines, right? And so these cells will suck up that nutrients from our intestines. All these nutrients will start going into the cells. And that will then go into our bloodstream because there's a bunch of blood vessels all connected to these cells. Then it goes into our bloodstream, gets distributed through our body, and that's how we get our nutrients and how we survive, right? And so that's super cool. There's good bacteria, right? People don't know this. Some people do. A lot of people do, maybe. But there's actually bacteria that cleans our water. So our sewage water, bacteria is used to clean it up. And so a lot of times when people get bacteria sickness in the water, it's from E. coli, which is a bad bacteria. It's not a good bacteria. It comes from the waste of humans and maybe some other animals, mostly humans because we produce a lot of it. But E. coli is really bad. It produces toxins that if we ingest it, it's not going to be good for us. It'll be really bad. But we have some bacteria that we use to treat sewage water. So in water treatment facilities, I have a buddy that works at one, and whenever we went to a water treatment facility for a field trip, we were able to see how all of it works. So they'll put some chemicals in there to treat some of the water, but whenever the sewage water is coming from the pipes, right, it goes into this big tank. And so in that tank, we got the nasty water, but then there's bacteria in there that eat all that bad stuff. They'll eat it up, and they'll separate it, and then that water will just skim off the top, and then it looks kind of gross. You don't think anything's working, but it's actually cleaning it. And so at the moment, they have fans that will pump the water into the bacteria tanks, and that kind of costs a lot of energy. But something that they started doing studies of, they found a bacteria called BioVolt. And the cool thing about this is it requires a lot less energy, and it actually produces energy for us. So whenever the BioVolt is breaking down all that nasty water, it actually releases electrons. And so if you know anything about electrons, they're what creates our lights. They give us energy, right? The moving of electrons is what creates energy. And so whenever the BioVolt is breaking down all this bad stuff, it causes the electrons to separate and go all over the place, and that's going to create energy for us, which would be a cool way, if we can harness that, to be able to get some of that sewage water clean and produce energy for us so that we don't have to waste so much energy for water treatments, right? And so that's pretty cool. But one thing I wanted to show you, I kind of skipped it a little bit, is whenever I was talking about the hydrophobic head and the hydrophilic head and the hydrophobic tail, remember the two ends of the soap? We can go ahead and demonstrate that. Ready? So I have some Dawn dish soap. Yeah, it's Dawn. And then in here I have some water and I put some pepper in there. And so you can see all the pepper in there. And the pepper is going to resemble the germs. Alright? And so what I can do is I'm going to pour this soap into the water and watch what happens. And this is a good experiment you can do at home to just show how soap works. You can see all that pepper is starting to spread all the way to the side. Not so much on the bottom because it's kind of stuck to the bottom, but over there on top, you can see all of that that pepper started to spread to the side because the hydrophobic head pushes that water away, and the hydrophilic tails are all on this side. And so whenever the water wants to go into the hydrophilic head, and then all those germs are going to be separated by the hydrophobic tails. I might have gotten them mixed up. Hydrophilic head loves the water. Hydrophobic tails, nope. Yes. Hydrophobic tails will push the water away and take up all those oils and stuff, right? And so we can talk about another thing. Whenever you're playing with your toys, you want to be really careful. I would wash my hands before and after, just so I don't get germs on my toys as I'm playing with them, and then I don't get germs on my hands when I'm done, right? So what we can do is we can go over here, and we're going to do a cool little experiment. I got all of these toys I can play with, right? I love playing with toys. And so I'm going to use this. This right here is glow-in-the-dark paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread it all over my hands. I don't really care about getting paint on my hands because it's for science. And so I'm going to put it all on my hands. And I'm going to be rubbing it around. I might put a little bit more. And so my hands are covered in germs, right? The paint is pretending to be the germs. You can't really see it, can you? It's all kind of hidden away, right? Now I'm going to start playing with my toys. I'm going to play with this dude, and I'm going to play with this dude. He's going to... I can put on... I'm not going to put them on because I don't want to touch my face with it, right? But I can start touching things. I'm going to start touching them. And maybe I go to the bathroom and I don't wash my hands while I'm playing with them. And so I'm going to get more germs on my hands. This is a lot more germs now because I didn't wash my hands, which is the most important thing you need to do. And so, you can kind of see it now. But I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to grab my dinosaur, and he's going to attack this one. Then I'm going to grab this dinosaur. He's going to fight this one. He's going to make sure he's protecting that one. And I'm going to play with some Legos. I can start building stuff. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting a good building on. I'm not the fastest builder. That's alright. And so what we're going to do is after I'm done playing with my toys, we're going to turn the lights off and see if you can see the germs with our UV light. So we have a light that you'll be able to see. Oh, and especially with stuff like hand sanitizer, whenever you have like a bottle of hand sanitizer, it's going to be covered in germs, right? Because before you put the hand sanitizer on, your hands are covered in germs. So whenever you squeeze the bottle down, it's going to have all this nasty stuff. So whenever I grab this and touch it, I'm going to be touching it all over. Right? And so this has the germs, but then I'm going to go wash my hands. I'm going to wash my hands with this hand sanitizing wipe. So this is the Purell wipes. And so this is paint, so it might not come off that well with this. I might have to just use soap and water. But I bet you whenever we look at this, we're going to see it glow a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Alright. So I've been playing with my toys, right? I'm about done. Mom's telling me to go home. Or not go home, but stop playing. It's time for bed. I don't want to go to bed, but I'm going to wash my hands after because I need to make sure that my hands are clean. I don't want to go to sleep with my hands dirty because that's going to give it time to just sit there and grow a little bit. But we're going to show you what it looks like whenever you're done playing with your toys. You don't wipe down your toys, and they get pretty dirty, right? And so what we can do, here we go ahead and turn it off. I'm going to turn the light off. My hands are really sticky. So my hands are super sticky right now because of this paint. But what we can do is I'm going to show you the germs on my dinosaur. So if you can see my dinosaur right here. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, he's covered. Look at that. All those germs on that dinosaur. And so then when I go to play with my dinosaur again, I'm going to get all these germs on my hands. And so that's not good, right? Let's look at this. Oh my goodness. Look at this hand sanitizing wipe. That's crazy. all that, all this craziness, all these germs are sitting there. But then you can't see them whenever you're not looking at it. So you might be able to, you can't really see, it's white, so it's hard to tell on there. But look at my hands. Look at my hands. My hands are covered in germs, right? And so that's why we want to make sure, see, even this guy's covered. I didn't even play with him that much. Let's look at our Legos. Oh man, our Legos are looking not too good, right? We got some stuff on there, you can see it all on the bottoms too where I was grabbing it. And so this will show, let me turn the lights back on. This will show that whenever you're playing, you're touching things, you want to make sure you wash your hands before and after, right? So you don't want to get germs on your toys, because then your toys are dirty and then it'll be bad to play with them again, which I love to play. So this is a good way to show that. And then just because the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, the protozoa, just because they sound a little scary doesn't mean we should be scared, right? It's good to have knowledge on this topic. I just touched my nose, and so I probably have bacteria on my nose, which is not good. You're not supposed to touch your face. But it's good to know about all these topics, because if we know about it, then we can stop it, right? And this is the best way to do it, just to educate yourself on germs and how to stop them. And this is just washing your hands with soap and water. Soap is the main factor, right? That's going to get rid of all those germs, and that's the best way to do it, just to make sure you're nice, clean, you're taking care of your body, right? So this is the best way to make sure you're staying away from germs, right? You don't want germs, except for the good germs, like the probiotics that help you digest the food, the other bacteria that helps clean the sewage water. So even though there's bad germs, there's good germs, right? So this is how you do it. You want to make sure you're washing your hands a lot, and we appreciate y'all staying with us with this video, listening to us. I hope you learned something, and we hope to see y'all again. The Science Center is still closed, of course, so we're just having to do these videos so that we can reach out to y'all, but hopefully we'll open soon whenever all this craziness is over, and then we can continue to talk about cool science stuff. So thank y'all for joining us, and we hope y'all have a good day.